Welcome to Digital Hospitality. I am your host, Sean Walchef. This is a Cali BBQ Media production. Today is a very exciting day for me. It's a very exciting day if you're a listener. If you're a new listener, welcome to the show. Our thesis is digital hospitality. Every business needs to be digital first. Every business needs to be in the hospitality business. We are a barbecue restaurant that became a media company. And how did we do that? We did that because we opened in 2008, the height of the economic recession, and we had no idea what we were doing. Didn't know how to run a business, didn't know how to do a weekly profit and loss statement, didn't know how to get people to come to our restaurant because it was in a difficult location in San Diego. So what did we do? We did everything. We failed all over the place. We did all different types of marketing. We advertised in the yellow pages. We took ads out in the local newspaper. We went on local radio. We literally did anything and everything. Buy one, get one free, Groupon. But ultimately what started to be successful was learning how to do social media marketing, digital media marketing, understanding that there are free tools on the internet and more specifically on the smartphone that allowed us to build a community, build a brand, and to get people to care about what we were doing. So this podcast is an extension of Behind the Smoke, which was our first podcast, bringing people behind the business of barbecue. But now more specifically, it's about digital hospitality. It's about the world and all the things that go around all of us every single day. We're using incredible technology every single day, the power of the smartphone in our pocket, that we can connect with guests all over the world, experts all over the world, people that inspire us to do better, to be better, people that are playing the game within the game. Today's guest is coming all the way from the other side of the world. Super grateful to have Ben Arnot. He is the host, the MC of a #1 barbecue podcast, a #1 barbecue website. It is at Smoking Hot Confessions. And he recently launched Meat and Fire Media Services, which is something I'm super excited about. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks, mate. It's great to be here. It's a Sunday morning here, so I'm kicking off my day talking about barbecue and digital media, two of my favorite things. I can't think of a much better way to start a Sunday.
Well, I truly appreciate the time. It's super exciting for me because we met through National Barbecue Association. So we met back in 2017 at Fort Worth, Texas. You had entered into the audio category for Best Barbecue Podcast. Behind the Smoke, we were also in the audio category. But one of the cool things that we talk about on this show, we talk about with barbecue, but we also talk about with media and marketing, is a rising tide lifts all ships. So it was never a competition. It was, how do we get to meet another podcaster? That's how I met Stover, the producer of the show. That's how I met Greg Rempe, the host of the award-winning, longest-running barbecue podcast, the Barbecue Central show. And that is also how I met you. Can you tell us the story of our first interaction at that NBBQA festival?
Yeah, so just a little correction. It was actually 2018, not
2018. I'm
not
trying
2017.
Good.
Yeah.
2018. That actually makes more sense because we launched in 2017. So 2018.
Yeah. And so earlier in that year, in 2018, I'd been working with Saffron Hodgson, who was the NBBQA president, and we'd been working on a couple of things together. And she said, "Listen, I'm doing this thing with the NBBQA. We're expanding the annual Excellence Awards to start including digital media, photography, podcasts, videos, marketing materials, all that sort of stuff. I really love listening to your show. I think you should put it in." And I sort of went, "Oh yeah, yeah, sure." Like that, I don't think Americans are going to want to listen to an Aussie talk about their national cuisine, I don't, but no, she wouldn't let up, because when Saffron's onto something, she knows she's onto something. She's a very clever lady. And so I submitted just the podcast and didn't think anything else of it. And I was at work one day, and it was one of my desk days, one of my office days, and I was just sitting there and doing stuff on the computer, and I got a notification on my phone. It said, "Behind the Smoke is live now." And I went, "Oh, today's the NBBQA Awards. They might be there." And so I tapped on that, and your video came up on Instagram there, and it was there was you and Stover and Barbecue Central, and I think somebody else, and you were basically having a round table after the awards.
Yep.
And you were discussing how the awards went down and who'd got what and what it all meant and the implications of it, and sort of really breaking it down, sort of, ESPN style. It was really interesting.
In true Rempe fashion, ESPN style, yes.
Yeah. And I was listening to that and I was watching that, and I heard you actually say, "Oh, congratulations to Smoking Hot Confessions on taking out third place." And I went, What? What? What's
Yes.
happening here?" And I put a comment on your video saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. This is amazing. Thank you so much for doing this video and letting me know." And then you sent me a direct message saying, "Mate, do you want to come join us on the Instagram video?" And I said, "Give me 20 minutes." And I ran
Mhm.
out of work and I ran across the road to our equivalent of like a Best Buy.
Yeah.
And I grabbed a set of headphones from my mobile phone and then ran back into my car, hid in my car in the car park where no one could see me, and set the phone up on the cradle and joined you on the Instagram call. And that's how we actually sort of first crossed paths.
That's incredible. I love that story, and it's the power of digital. It's the power of social. It's the power of getting involved, and having a understanding that people are putting out content and going live streaming, and that's the pulse of what's happening. And if it's something that you care about, you can participate in that pulse. Um, I do want to read something. I hope that your wife doesn't mind, but this is something that is so powerful when you're talking about smartphone storytelling, when you start to get to the truth. So this is something that your wife posted on Facebook, and something I want to dive into a little bit. Bree, who's an amazing woman. I know she is the backbone of the family, just like my wife. But she posted this. She says, "If you know a little bit about Ben and I, you know the past 18 months have been challenging, to say the least. This time last year, after some major financial setbacks, just prior to the pandemic and lockdown, Ben and I didn't know if we were going to need to sell our home or give up on some of the big dreams we had been working on for years. We had two choices: sell our home and downsize, or back ourselves and rethink the ways we could use what we had learned and the tools we had at our disposal. That is when we started. That is when we decided to start Meat and Fire Media Services. Meat and Fire Media Services. Can you bring me back to that post and what was going on?"
Yeah. So, okay, 18 months ago. So we have this house on the Gold Coast here, and it's a beautiful big house. It's double story. There's a 3-bedroom house upstairs, and the downstairs, it's what is called a Queenslander house. So here in Queensland, in the ages before air conditioning, it was extremely humid, extremely hot. Bree Bree refers to it as the Australian equivalent of Florida. And so these Queenslander houses were built on sticks, so the air could pass through underneath and cool the house passively. But once air conditioning, like residential air conditioning, became available, someone built in the bottom. So there's now a 2-bedroom apartment downstairs. And so we bought this massive house with just the three of us, just me, my wife, and my son, with the plan of my wife's mother moving in downstairs because her father was quite ill. And in the end, they ended up both passing away about 10 weeks apart. And so we got left with this massive house, this huge mortgage, and sort of no idea of what we are going to do to keep it going to service that mortgage. And so we turned it into an Airbnb. So we actually run 3 side hustles. So I've got a full-time job. I teach at a college, um, and I
Do you
work with
teach?
immigrants, and I teach English as a second language. So I work with immigrants and refugees, and help them arrive here, get set up, help them, like, teach them English, help them get out into the community and find jobs, and pay their taxes and all that sort of good stuff. And okay, I'm getting wrapped up in my own story here. So we're doing that. We've got 3 businesses on the side. We've got the Airbnb, Smoking Hot Confessions, and now Meat and Fire Media Services. And so 18 months ago, we got hit by a huge flood here. And despite the fact that we're on a hillside, we still managed to get flooded, and the apartment got flooded, had to be all um, redone inside, tiles up and new tiles, and plaster cut out and new plaster put in. It was just a mess. And so we had to hire somebody to redo the backyard, to landscape the backyard with a water catchment system in it. So we hired this guy. It was a $15,000 job, and he was a complete con man. And
Oh,
by the time well, he didn't get to finish because we had to fire him because we got hit with more rain, and
oh,
the damage was worse than before after the work that he'd done. And he was also very fraudulent in what he was telling us he was charging us for and what he was actually doing. So the $15,000 job turned into a $50,000 job by
oh
the
my
time we had to
God.
hire someone else to redo everything that he'd done. And we had just bought our tickets to America to go on our annual trip to America because the NBBQA had invited me to present in 2020. So we were out that money. We were out the backyard with this con man. We were out the money for the backyard with the con man. And then the the pandemic hit, and everything just went on hold. And so Australia is quite. I don't know if you visited here, but customs and all that sort of stuff are really strict here. So anything kind of biological, like you can't bring any food in at
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff in your luggage and whatnot. So they just shut the borders here. They said that's it. And so Bree was already not working. She had just been made redundant in December, like about 6 weeks before the pandemic, because her school had decided to close the Gold Coast campus and just focus on the Brisbane campus. So she was not working, but her redundancy payment had been eaten up by this con man. And then the pandemic hit. So Bree's also an international English language teacher. So no international students, no international English teachers. Um, so there's schools closing left, right, and center over the last 18 months. It's only by the grace of, Jesus, Allah, Buddha, whatever you believe in, that I've managed to keep my job to keep us going. And so we were in this situation of staring down the barrel of this giant mortgage and going, okay, we either call it and sell the house and move back in with my dad and try and find jobs somewhere else, or we back ourselves, take stock of what we got, look at what we've got, what can we do with it, and double down on ourselves. And we've always been good at sort of building businesses. We used to work together as a team, and schools would hire us to rebuild their schools and redo curriculums and all that sort of stuff. And we did that a couple of times for a couple of schools in Sydney and a school up here on the Gold Coast. And we thought, well, we know we can work together. We know we work together well. Um, let's back ourselves. So we sat down with a couple of big sheets of A3 paper and we said, okay, what do we got? And we just went through everything. We said, okay, we got this big house with this apartment downstairs. We've now got a beautiful backyard area. We've got all this hardware for the podcasting. We've got the soundboards and the cameras and the computers and the high-speed internet connection and the lights and the blah, 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 blah. How can we sort of package all this up together? And so that basically led to the formation of Meat and Fire Media Services. And the other thing that's really important to what we've been doing is relationship management and network building. And so because I'm still working full time, Bree started joining a couple of different networking groups, and she'd go out and she'd meet these people and, shake the hands and do all the, make the first impressions and all that sort of stuff. And what we actually found was we started to get a lot of photography work. And
Yeah.
so a lot of my photography stuff had been food photography with the barbecue stuff, excuse me, and festivals and whatnot. And so all of a sudden we're doing headshots for lawyers and
Headshot
accountants and
headshots cannot go understated. Headshots are such an important thing that gets overlooked as like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just a headshot. Literally every single profile on every social platform requires a headshot. You need a headshot for your website. Like, do not overlook the headshot. Please, if you're listening to this, if you get anything out of this episode, please go get a professional headshot.
oh yeah. So we started doing that, and then we've been out. We've done a couple of on location shoots, and we're sort of branching out there. So now, fast forward 12 months, I'm now having to adjust my workload at the college to be able to make way for all the work that we're bringing in with Meat and Fire Media Services now. Which is fantastic. So we've now got some inquiries for videography. So people want us to do some video testimonials for them, for their websites, for their businesses, which is exciting. And yeah, it's all coming together really nicely. And it's because we made that decision to double down, back ourselves, and just work together towards a common goal. And that's where we're at with Meat and Fire Media Services. So it's exciting. I had been doing a 1.25 workload at the college for the last 5 years. And I just 2 days ago got to drop it to a 1.0. So I'm just working a regular full-time job again now. So I had that Friday off and it was glorious. Absolutely glorious. I got to spend the day out in the backyard. One of the things we did in the backyard was I've been building a new outdoor barbecue studio kitchen. So
Beautiful.
I've bought a whole bunch of lights and cameras and, block out blankets and things to, because of course the kitchen faces due west. So after about midday, the kitchen's unusable in terms of filming because the, the afternoon light comes in and just blows everything out. So we got to block all that off and all that sort of stuff. So I've been working on that. I've been building on that, and I got to use that for the first time on Friday. And I did a little how to select and trim beef ribs video for the Townsville barbecue battle, which I was doing a whole bunch of virtual stuff for them. So one of the other things that's popped up through all this is that I built this home studio that I'm sitting in now, and I started to do a bunch of different stuff while we're all in lockdown. Because we have quite a sizable community on Facebook, our Facebook group, the Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue community, and a lot of those people in there, they are
There's
restaurant
over
owners.
over
They're
3,000 active users. Like,
yeah,
don't worry about the number. Worry about that all of them care about anything that Ben or Bree posts. Anytime that they post, they're actively engaging and producing their own content for that Facebook community group. And that's so important.
yeah. I think it goes beyond more than they just care about us. We all care about each other in that
Correct.
group.
Correct.
Um, and so it's honestly it's one of the nicest groups that you'll find out there. And
I agree.
one of the a friend of mine really inspired me. He had a partner, and his partner had a daughter, and so he sort of became a stepdad to this daughter, and he was going to these not business parties, birthday parties, and just seeing all these kids getting pumped up on junk food, running around screaming, parents screaming at kids, and he decided he was inspired by Gandhi, be the change that you want to see in the world, and he actually started a business of fit and healthy outdoor activity uh, sessions. And what he did was he has this big van, and he packs all these outdoor kids pop up playground activity type things, and he goes there and he makes the rules. So the kids aren't allowed to drink soft drinks there. They aren't allowed to be eating candy there. They, if they're going to eat, they've got to eat fruit. The parents need to give them fruit. Otherwise, they don't come and play on his stuff until they go eat and burn all the rubbish off somewhere else. And he's got all these activities that engage kids actively and healthily. And I was really inspired by that, be the change that you want to see. And I was in all these different Facebook groups, and it just gets so nasty so quickly. And,
Yep.
you know, people are sitting at home in the dark by themselves, and they have a couple of drinks, and they get a bit out of control, and they're on the keyboards, and you know, and I decided, look, I'm going to start my own Facebook group, and I'm going to be really clear in the rules, and I'm going to be consistent about applying those rules and even-handed. Um, so I did that, and it's been a slow build on the group. Some groups start and they blow up to 10, 15,000, 100,000 really quickly. We've been a really slow build, but it's been a consistent build, and it's one of the nicest places to be. But anyway, during lockdown, I really feel obligated to take care of this group. I put a lot of time into that, and I take care of a lot of the people. And so one of the things we did was I started a barbecue game show. So sitting here in the studio, I found this online platform that would allow me to type all these questions in, put a photo, multiple choice answers, and then I worked out how to stream that live and have people be able to engage like a almost like a Jeopardy or a Sale of the Century
Yep.
type game show online. So we did that every Friday for 10 weeks, and after each one, we had a separate session that was not recorded. It wasn't branded. I would actually turn off the Zoom call, take off all my branding, and put a different shirt on, and just kick back, and we'd have a beer and just chat, just like almost like a social circle. And I think that meant a lot to people, just to have that, because all of a sudden all the competitions were gone. Um, all the social outlets for people to be able to talk to each other and relate to each other and blow off steam were gone. And so I did these things to help sort of foster the community. And so as a result of those different virtual events that I was doing, I'm now getting invited to do these different virtual events that have sprung up alongside face-to-face competition. So, for
Sure.
example, this weekend just passed, actually yesterday, exactly yesterday, the Townsville barbecue battle. They're about a 14-hour drive north of me, up in the north of Queensland, and I was just sitting right here in the office here on the Gold Coast, and I was jumping into people's backyards all around Australia because they were running a backyard barbecue competition virtually in parallel to the in-person barbecue competition at and in Townsville at Strand Park there. So they had all these big screens set up and a stage set up, and they'd do something in person live on the stage, and then they'd cross to me and we'd do something virtually, and it was streamed on the internet and also broadcast on the big screens at the event. And I think that's one thing that we're seeing now is we're seeing a whole lot of different um, digital avenues
Yep.
have been created, have been invented, and now we're starting to see them get incorporated more into face-to-face events. And I think that's really interesting. And I think that's going to be the future of the barbecue scene. We're going to see a lot more digital stuff happening, a lot more digital stuff going on. And for someone who is a complete barbecue nerd and a techno nerd like myself, that's just fantastic news.
Well, it's ironic that the way that we met was on Instagram Live at a barbecue event. We were literally pre-pandemic already figuring out how to use these digital tools that we have at our fingertips to make connections on the other side of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, what is it? Uh, necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah,
Is that the expression?
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'd love for you to talk about. I heard your last podcast, and you were talking about your podcast partner program and some of the statistics of the results that you're seeing in that niche for meat and fire. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So one of the things that we've done with our podcast, what a lot of people don't sort of realize is that the podcast for each episode that plays for an hour, there's a minimum of 10 hours work behind the scenes
Thank
that,
you for
I mean,
saying that.
I don't need to tell you this. I don't need to tell you this. But I'm telling everybody else, there's a minimum of 10 hours work that goes into every 1 hour of
Yes.
episode. And I've been doing this for 5 years now, and it reaches a point where you either burn out or you need to find ways of making that program earn its keep.
Yep.
And so there was that pressure. And then there was also, we've really seen an uptick in the exposure of the show. So necessity being the mother of invention during lockdown, I thought, okay, I'm going to use this time to reinvent Smoking Hot Confessions. We had been audio only for 3 or 4 years. And I thought, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work out how to turn this into a video format as well. And we are going to um, publish it in multiple formats. So I played around with a couple of different ways of doing it. Started out just using a webcam and then wasn't happy with that. I was recording it all on Zoom and then wasn't happy with that. So I started recording it on Zoom, but then using video editing software to put nice frames all around it. And it was all manually done bit by bit. And there was about 4 hours of work just in each one of them, just to get each episode
Sure.
manually cut and edited into those nice frames and that we use. And sorry.
No problem.
And
You all right?
so yeah. I don't know. I'm just it's just winter time here. I might be a little bit cold in the morning. And so I worked through that and went through a couple of evolutions of that really quickly because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I actually have a degree in theater, so performance and drama and acting and on the stage and in front of cameras and stuff. I've been trained in that. I've got 3 years training in that, and so it's all got to be mint, or I'm not happy with it. And so we've gone through about 4 different evolutions in 12 months, and it's really paid off. So now that the show has been released in video and audio format, we've seen total consumption of the show increase by 20-fold.
That's
Um,
incredible. Can you tell
it's
which
ridiculous.
platforms are you streaming to so the audience understands?
So I actually do it in a couple of different ways. I live stream the recording in the Facebook group in the Smoking on Confessions barbecue community, and that adds value to the people in the community because they have the opportunity to interact with the guests. So I no longer use Zoom. I use a different software called Ecamm Live,
Hmm.
and it's quite an expensive software, but it does allow me the opportunity for the viewers to interact with the guests. So they can pop comments and questions in, and then I can bring those comments and questions up on screen for the guest to answer. So I record the podcast live in that group on Facebook, and then I leave that up for an hour or two so that anybody who joined late can go back and catch the start. But then I actually pull it down, and because I'm that perfectionist, I have to edit it all up, polish the audio, EQ everything. I've got to do all that stuff, and then I republish it at a later date. And so one of the things that I do, because I teach at a college, I like to batch record in the holidays. So I did an episode with you just a few weeks ago, and that was one episode on a day of recording. So I'll
Yep.
pick a day and I'll record 4 or 5 episodes in a day. And if you think my voice is a bit croaky today, you should see me by the end of about 7 hours of just talking on a webcam.
Sure.
Um, but so that then gets published. The video then gets published across YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV over on Instagram. And they're all 1-hour episodes. We do have, if the episodes run over, then I do have to trim bits out of it. But on Patreon, we do have a subscriber-based Patreon account where they can actually view or listen to that uncut version of it. So that's over on Patreon as well. And then, of course, the audio version gets uploaded to Libsyn. That's the podcast host that we use. And then Libsyn, which stands for Liberated Syndication, they then syndicate it out for me to every possible podcast platform that there is. So it goes everywhere there. So pretty much anywhere where you're on socials, you type in Smoking Hot Confessions, you're going to find the show.
Yeah.
And what we've found is that I was looking at the numbers and I went, oh, wow, this is some great numbers here. There's some opportunities to help out some businesses here. And one of the things that we did during the lockdown was the focus of the show had been on competition barbecue. But of course, when there's no competitions on, there's no winning teams to talk to and all this sort of
Yep.
stuff. So I shifted the focus to people who had barbecue businesses, particularly small businesses. And I started to bring them on as the weekly guests and give them as much exposure as possible, and give them a chance to talk about how people can still support their businesses even though they're in lockdown and all this sort of stuff. So helping people and helping small businesses is one of the things that we're passionate about here. And we saw an opportunity now that we've got this 20-fold increase of consumption of the show. We thought, okay, well, this is something that we can do. It's going to help them. As part of the partnership, there'll be some money coming back to us, so that's going to help us as well. And we started to do these little case studies. So I approached a couple of businesses. I said, listen, this is an idea I've got, an introductory price of this, as an experiment, and let's see what we can do. And so the first case study we did was 5 episodes, and the total number of plays and listens, I'm really not good with numbers. You put me on the spot here. I think it was 51,000 over 5 episodes, total views and listens, with a total reach of 141,000 people. So we were able to put that 171. All right, there you go. Thank you.
No problem.
So you've got the stats up there. Yeah,
I've got your stats.
Okay.
Very impressive stats. I mean, we put on a barbecue media company, and you're doing barbecue media things that are impactful for all these businesses this is the power of media. It's the power of marketing, but turning it into media. And that's why I'm so excited to have you on, and so excited for what you and Bree are doing, because this is the future this is what legacy media doesn't understand. Radio doesn't get this. Newspapers don't get this. News stations don't understand this. But podcasters are starting to understand the value of the content that they're creating for telling the story, helping a business tell their story.
Yeah. So that was the first case study. Total reach of 171,000. So we were working with that small business. We put their name in front of 171,000 people across the different platforms, with a total consumption of was it 51? Was that what the number was? 51,000?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I should have the stats in front of me. This is embarrassing.
I put you on the spot. Come on.
Yeah. By the time we got to the second case study, the snowball was really rolling down the mountain now. And we got a total consumption of about 85,000 views and listens, with a total reach of just under 250,000 people, 241,000, something like that. And So that is really huge for just 5 episodes for a 5-week partnership. So we've got 2 more businesses that are just in the contract stage now for becoming podcast partners. We're looking forward to working with them and helping them get their message out there as well. So what's at the core for us is and always has been helping people. So as I said at the top of the show, we're international English teachers. We work with immigrants, refugees, all that sort of stuff. People that are fleeing persecution in their countries. We're helping them land here and become part of become contributing members of the community and all this sort of stuff. And we realized that the show wasn't just an entertainment thing. The show was also educational, and it had the real opportunity to help people. So we last year during the lockdown, I told you that we switched focus from competitions to businesses, and so we were able to help not only the guests that we were interviewing, but all the other people listening that also had businesses in the barbecue world, listening to how those people had pivoted their businesses and had modified their business models to survive the lockdowns and the pandemics. That knowledge is then spread around. And so other people are able to then apply those techniques in their own businesses. And what we've seen is that despite all this lockdown and pandemic and stuff, the barbecue industry has fared very well compared to a lot of other industries. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. It's not just us. There are many, many reasons for that. But we like to think that we contribute to that. And as you said right at the very top, the rising tide lifts all ships, and that's very true. And so, things have picked up for us. We're able to help people more. We're able to help them lift more, and it becomes this cycle of improvement and help and sharing, and it leads to success across the board for everybody. So that's what's at the core of what we do for us, and that's what we offer um, different businesses through both Smoking Hot Confessions now and Meat and Fire Media Services.
I absolutely love that. And it's one of the things we talk about and we try to teach as well. It's that you, the person listening to this podcast, the one that's driving in your car, wherever you are, you can be the voice of the village. We all want somebody else to do it, but it's you. If you take that smartphone, if you start to use video, if you start to use streaming, if you start to post content, if you start to do smartphone storytelling and start using audio, video, written word, and images, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It might not happen in a year. Ben's been doing this for 5 years. I mean, we've been doing it for 13, but we've pivoted and we've been able to create all these different opportunities to learn that we need to focus on who we are. We need to know our story. We also need to know how to market our story, how to publish it on the internet. But now that we do that, it's no longer about us. It's about all the people around us. We're just using all the skills that we've learned to help share that story. So I'm going to put you on the spot like you did when I was on your podcast. You have
Payback.
a
Here we go.
you have a brilliant video to pitch your Meat and Fire Media Services. It's a 2-minute video that is on the website, is also in your Facebook feed, and it's about branding and social media. I'm sure you have it down by heart, and I'm going to put you on the clock. Are you ready?
Oh, okay.
You ready to go and rehearse? You've got the brand script.
Oh, I can find it and I can open it if you like.
You don't need it. No, I want it from the heart.
Okay.
Why? So I'm a small business. Why are we investing in Meat and Fire Media Services?
So what is at the core of a lot of businesses is branding, and branding is not just what is the business about. Branding needs to be about you. Branding needs to be about bringing your values, what's important to you, into the business and then showing that to the world, because people no longer are really interested in just buying from a brand. They want to buy from someone that they trust, someone that they know. So you look at a brand like Toyota is the #1 car manufacturer here in Australia. Now, Toyota is it's a big faceless company, but they've had 60 years, 70 years here in Australia to build that reputation. And so people know that brand. They feel like they have a relationship with that brand. That their great grandfather had a Toyota, their grandfather, their father, they've got a Toyota. The first car that they buy for their kid is going to be a Toyota Corolla because they're bulletproof. They know they can rely on them. They're safe and all the rest of that. If you're running a small business, you don't have the luxury of 70 or 80 years to build that brand, to build that relationship with the people. So you need to have branding that's keyed into you and keyed into your message to be able to develop that relationship, to establish that relationship with potential customers. And so one of the things that we have available at Meet and Fire Media Services is we have a an online course that people can take, which is strategic brand building through strategic social media marketing. And it's a go to woe course. We take you through all the different ways of basically finding your message first, finding what's important to you, how you define your business behind the scenes, and then how you can take that, shape that, mold that, and put that out into the world to bring more customers in. And what we did was we modeled that off of how we've built Smoking Hot Confessions. Smoking Hot Confessions just started with me on my laptop late in the hours of the night because my wife and son are both early birds. They go to bed at 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And I'm the opposite. I'm a night owl. So I'm left on my own to my own devices from 7 p.m. to midnight.
You
And
could be doing worse stuff, I guess.
there's a lot of trouble that a middle-aged man with a laptop and a high-speed internet connection can get into in
Yeah.
the wee hours of the night. But I decided to do this Smoking Hot Confessions thing. And what I actually found was that the more I just did things that felt right to me, that resonated with me, the more that resonated with people out there watching and viewing and listening. And as I said when I was talking about the group, part of that group is I wanted to have a group that I wanted to be in. I didn't want all this backbiting, the backstabbing, all the bitching and moaning and complaining and all the nastiness that can go on in a lot of groups. And so that's what I did. And I wanted a barbecue brand that did this and stood for this and represented this, and that's what we've done. And so what we've done is we've built that course out to show people how to do exactly how we built Smoking Hot Confessions. So that's what's happening with that. That's the brand building thing, and that's miles off script. So I don't know if that was what you were looking
No,
for, but
it's exactly what I was looking for. I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about the things that you've seen successful barbecue brands do in Australia as well as globally. You have a global reach with your show. You barbecue you podcast and interview all the top barbecue heavyweights all over the globe. What have you seen from successful brands?
The I think that the most important thing, and I'm not going to say that Smoking Hot Confessions is one of the most successful brands. It's just the brand, of course, that I'm most aware of. And one of the things that we've always done is we've always made sure that the show is not about us. So the show is always about other people. The show is about the people listening, and we want to make sure that they get value for time, because time is the most valuable thing that we have. So if you're going to spend an hour listening to my show, I want you to come away going, wow, that not only was I entertained, but I learned a ton from that. Thank you so much. So it's got to be valuable for the consumers. B, it's got to be valuable for the guests. So those two things work together. The more listeners you get, the more valuable it is for the guests. The more valuable it is for the guests, the higher, the more well known, the higher reputed guests you're going to get. The more reputed guests you get, the more value there is for the audience, and the audience grows, and it becomes this cycle. So in 165 episodes that we're up to now, we've only ever done 2 episodes that are about Smoking Hot Confessions, and that was the 100th episode and the 150th. And that's our plan, is just once a year, every 50th episode, we're just going to touch base and tell everybody what's happening here at Smoking Hot Confessions. But other than that, the other 98% of the episodes are all about what's going on out there. And that has resonated across all the interviews that I've done, is that the people that I interview, yes, they might run businesses, they might be competitors. Of course, there's something in it for them to be on the show. But the people who do the best are the people who are more interested in providing value for the listeners, for the viewers, than they are in getting value out of it for themselves. So they're the people who give the most, who share the most during the episodes. One of the most popular episodes we've ever done is one of the earliest ones with Tony Gimolero. He was he is just a barbecue legend over here. He's a grand champion, like #1 for the year winner of the whole national ladder that we run over here. And, you know, pretty much everywhere he ever went, he won, you know, just absolute legend. And his episode where because he was one of the first guys in the competition barbecue scene to bring a sauce to market. And now everybody's doing it. Everybody's got a rub, everybody's got a sauce, but he was probably the first. I'm going to say here back in 2016, he had his barbecue sauce out. And to date, that is still one of the most popular episodes we've ever done because he just laid it all out there. He said, this is how I make the sauce. This is how it goes to market. This is who I spoke to. This is what we need to do. These are the steps that you need to take, blah, 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 blah. And he just put it all out there, just laid it all out there and provided so much value that I think that episode resonates a lot with other people. So I think that the biggest key is when you're making this content, don't look at it as how can I get the maximum number of sales from this post? Look at it in terms of how much value can I provide in this post? Now, I'm not saying if you're a smoker manufacturer, go put your schematics up on Facebook, but
That could be
rather
very
than
popular.
it could be, but then you're probably not going to sell too many more smokers. But if you're a smoker manufacturer, start making content, teaching people how to cook stuff on your smoker.
Yeah.
Share a video about fire management, of showing how you control the fire in the firebox of your smoker. Explain thermodynamics, how the smoke and the heat travel through the smoker using one of your smokers. Just value for the consumers rather than pitch, take. There are moments to pitch. You and I discussed that when you were on my show. We discussed pitching and no doubt there is a certain element of pitching involved. We pitch to our podcast partners. We say, this is what we've got. This is the service that we can offer. This is how we can help you. This is what we need in return. And that's part of the pitch. We don't pitch to our consumers.
Correct.
We provide value to our consumers, and then they engage with our brand and they enjoy our brand. And as a result, you can't see behind me here very well, but there's all these cupboards and things with all these little boxes and that behind me, and they're all full of t-shirts and hoodies and hats and mugs and all the merch. And every week I'm running to the post office and I'm doing that, but I don't pitch that stuff. People just engage with the brand. They find it naturally. They go to the website, they're clicking around, looking at the different articles and things we've got on the website. And then they go, oh, there's a shop here. Oh, that looks nice. I'll get some of that. And because we have that relationship of trust with them, of providing value, that I don't need to pitch. They go, you know what? Smoking Hot Confessions provides so much value, and it's, I trust it so much. I know that t-shirt is going to be a good quality t-shirt. I don't need to see a video of Ben trying to tear the shirt with his hands to show how strong it is or anything like this,
I want to see that video.
and that's yeah. I'll get mine in my wife's car and I'll tie them to the tow bars and then try and drive the cars in different directions. Yeah.
Now we're talking. Get a TikTok video going. There we go.
Yeah. But look, in the world of content marketing, the focus needs to be on the value for the consumer, not on the pitch for the business.
That's 100% correct. And I love the way that you narrated that story for us, because it comes down to story. And I know that's one of the most difficult things when you're in a value-based business, is that how do you tell your story in that value-based business? But, the way that I see the ecosystem of the content that you create, when you add that value, your brand ambassadors, your people that love your show, who I am included, and Stover is included, and all the barbecue community is included, it's because you're adding so much value that we can't not talk about it. I can't not bring up the way that you do your show, the way that you add value, the way that you're building a community on Facebook, the way that you're forward thinking on your website, the way that you do your email campaign. Give me some tips for any small business, not just a barbecue business, not just a media business, but some tips for how do you build a successful website?
Oh, wow. Build a successful website. Okay. So I did build that website myself. And as you mentioned at the top of the show, that did pick up #1 barbecue website at NBBQA this year in 2021. That was a ton of work, an absolute ton of work. Everything that I do here at Smoking Hot Confessions is self-taught. So in those hours of, 7 p.m. to midnight, I've been watching YouTube videos, lynda.com, which is now LinkedIn Learning, all these sorts of things. Everything I've learned, I've had to teach myself how to do. And one of those things is building a website. And fortunately, my jujitsu teacher, he used to build websites professionally. So for about 3 months, every Sunday, I'd bring around a 6-pack of beer and a little delicatessen plate, and we'd sit there and he'd teach me how to do stuff. And each Sunday, he'd teach me how to do something. And because I had an old website that I'd been updating weekly for about 3 years, there was over 100 different web pages on there, different articles, different stories. So it wasn't just a matter of building a fresh new website with no meat on the bones. I had to convert the whole thing. So it took me 12 months,
Mhm.
and that was virtually working nonstop on it for 12 months to convert all of that existing information over into the new format because we built it from scratch. I think when it comes to having a website, the most important thing is to understand your business and understand what type of website you need. So mine is a content-based website. So my website is not a static website. My website gets updated weekly. And so I need to have on the front page of that, I need to show immediately what those latest updates are. So I use it is a website because there is a shop function, there is some static pages, but there's also a blog function in there as well. So if you're looking at doing something content based, then you're going to want to look at a blog structured website. If you're something like a butcher or something like that, you're probably not going to be updating the website weekly. You need a static website. You need something where the homepage is the homepage, the info page is the info page. The content still needs to be engaging. You can still put slideshows and little videos on there, but you're not going to be, it's not like a newspaper where you're putting the latest information up front first. What you're putting in up front is basically you're presenting your business and then a call to action. So you'd have a video at the front. This is who we are. This is what we do. Watch me chop up this bit of meat here in front of you in this video. Come on down to the shop and we'll get you sorted. See you soon. Something like that on the front, and then the contact details there. Now, if you're a larger butcher and you're able to engage a content creator for you and have people write recipes for you using your meat, using, you know, I don't know what your butchers are like over there now, but butchers aren't just meat over here anymore. You go
Sure.
into
Oh
a
yeah.
you go into a butcher now, you've got all your
Specialty
rubs, you got
grocer.
sauces, you
Yep.
got woods, you got it exactly. Yeah, they've basically gone from being just meat to now being, as you said, a specialty grocer. Um, if you're large enough that you can employ a content creator, then by all means start doing that and add a blog function to the website, because a website that's updated often gets driven up the Google algorithm more. So, there's definitely benefits of doing that. But so the key to all of this is knowing yourself and knowing your business. Who are you and what do you need? And then build that and worry about everything else later as you need it. So who are you? What's your message? What is the purpose of the website? And build the website to suit that purpose.
Why is video such a powerful form of content marketing?
Because we spend a lot of time on the toilet and people like to watch videos on the toilet. No, it's because, look, they used to say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I think that a video is worth 1,000 pictures. The words are, of course, still important because you're not just going to stand there and just look at a camera for 3 minutes and not say anything. So the words are still very important, and the picture is still very important. You've still got to set the frame up nicely and have the background nice and all this sort of stuff. But people, we are visual by nature. Our eyes are the most used sense that we have now, apart from maybe taste, because we love to eat and we love to watch stuff. And if we can watch and eat stuff at the same time, hey, then you're winning there. But look, video is just so much more engaging than other forms of content. You can draw people in. It's easier to tell a story because you can literally tell a story, and storytelling dates back through the entire history of humanity. Before there was written language, before there were books, before there was any of that stuff, storytelling was how we educated people. all the hunters and gatherers, they'd go out, they'd do their thing during the day. They'd all gather back in the village at night time, light a fire, cook the food, and all sit around the fire telling stories. And that's how things like, different cultural acceptable behaviors and all that sort of stuff, fables and, um, I'm mental blanking on the word, stories that are used to teach behavior and culturally accepted behaviors and things like that. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking
The
about.
old style stories that your grandmother
Sure.
used to tell you and all that sort of stuff. The oral history and the formation of culture through storytelling. That's what's hardwired into us. And so we all now have the opportunity. I mean, where's my phone? Right here. I've got a phone right there. That's 4K capable video studio
Yep.
right in my pocket.
Yep.
And for less than $100, you can get a reasonable microphone and a little editing software, and you can produce outstanding content on a phone. It's only just 3 weeks ago that I've updated from using phones as cameras to using like a pretty flash camera. Um, until then, the last 5 years, I've just been using iPhones.
Yep.
And so I've managed to build this business using iPhones to the point where now I spend my weekends traveling around the country working at barbecue festivals. I'm either on stage presenting to the crowd, doing cooking demonstrations, hosting Q&As, emceeing the events, or I'm running around in the crowd doing content creation for social media marketing and continuing to keep that event in the forefront of people's minds for as long as possible. So when the next year rolls around, when the event's going to be on, people start seeing posts advertising it. They're like, "Oh yeah, I know what that was. I'll go along to that this year." And so I've managed to do most of that just from a mobile phone. And I mean, if you think about that, the ability to shoot 4K in your pocket,
Yes.
that's wild. That's wild. And you can you can talk for 1 minute, post it, and a minute later, it's global. It's all
Global.
around the world. It's
Yeah.
wild. It's absolutely wild. And it's it's wild and it's intimidating at the same time. So
Yes.
there are some people like you and me who see the potential of it and we're like, "Oh my God, we can reach a global audience in less than 60 seconds. Let's do it."
Let's
And
do
there's
it.
and there's people that go, "Oh my God, I can reach a global audience in less than a minute. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, panic, panic, freeze, put the phone down too hard."
Correct.
And the beauty of digital media is you don't have to publish it.
Yes.
You can practice, you can record it and delete it. This isn't film. You're not buying the film, processing the film, looking at the photos and going, "No, they're rubbish," and throwing them in the bin and you've wasted $100. This is digital media. You can shoot it, you can film it, you can photograph it, you can get a podcasting app and you can just record an audio version, listen back and go, "That's terrible. I'm not publishing that." And no one ever needs to know about it. You could spend months practicing and rehearsing and getting your skills up and then launch and then go bam. But now that said, one of the things that the hardest core members of your audience are going to appreciate is they're going to appreciate being on your journey.
Yeah.
So even if you do publish something that isn't perfect at the start, there are going to still be some people who engage with you. They're going to see you. They're going to, and as long as you're being authentic, they're going to see the real you. They're going to see what you're trying to do and they're going to connect with you and they're going to follow you. And as you improve, that's going to grow and you're going to attract more and more people. And what you end up with is this following that have seen you evolve and they're emotionally invested in your story and in your brand. And the power of that cannot be understated. Now, one of the mantras that we have built Smoking Hot Confessions and Meat and Fire on is to take imperfect action. And there's a
Yes.
guy here who I first heard that. I don't know if it's his direct quote, but I first heard it from him. His name escapes me, but his podcast was called Pro Blogger, and it was a podcast that was about how to build a professional blog, how to build a professional website, how to basically content marketing. And his mantra was just take imperfect action. And the core of that message is it doesn't matter if it's not perfect because you're going to talk yourself out of it every time. "Oh, I don't like that shadow on my face. Oh, I don't like Oh, I hiccuped in the middle of that. I did this. I held the knife the wrong way. I can't show people. Like, take imperfect action, roll with it, learn from it, don't do it again, and improve next time. And that's at the core of everything that we do. So when we first started doing the podcast in video format, if you go back about 12 months, a little bit more than 12 months now, and you dig through YouTube and you find our first video version of the podcast, the audio is great, sounds great, the information in it is great, the video is pretty hard to watch. And so we've, but I looked at it and I went, oh, I really don't like that, but we're onto something here. I'm going to work with it. I'm going to evolve it. And next week will be better. And so there's that one episode that was just done in the bare bones manner. And I really hated the way it looked. And literally by the next week, I had it looking better. And then it was just a matter of tweak. And now we're at the point where it looks amazing. It sounds amazing. Everything's great. And people are loving it. And the people that had bought into our, emotionally invested in us a year ago, 15 months ago, they've been part of that journey and they're seeing it come along. And when I get out to events now and I see people, they come up to me, they walk up to me, they shake my hand, they go, man, you're doing amazing things with that podcast. I love it so much. One person in particular, I particularly stands out in my memory, came up to me and said, mate, I love the video version of the show. My family and I are all into barbecue. We save it for a Friday night and we all sit down on the couch together and watch it like a TV program on the big screen in the lounge room.
That's
And
amazing.
that just blew my mind. And that's something that we do here in the spare bedroom of the house.
Yep.
And it's being consumed like mainstream television by families around the world. And it was actually, this has just made me think of something else. Just yesterday, I was watching because I'm addicted to learning. I love learning new stuff. So if I find myself with, I've got 15 minutes, I'm just sitting here doing nothing, I'll jump on YouTube and I'll look up something that I want to learn and I'll watch a video on it. And I was watching something about live streaming and how to do better live streams, all that sort of stuff. And something that one statistic that they put up, and I haven't fact checked it, so I can't, get behind it 100%, but they said that people are now watching 70% of people's video consumption is now on YouTube and Facebook and not on conventional television.
I believe that.
And that is a mammoth statistic. What does that mean? That means that people want to know what you are thinking about. People want to know what you are doing. People want to know what you know. And that's what the barbecue podcast, the Smoking Confessions barbecue podcast is all about. People want to know what the guests know. And that's what it is. That's sharing that knowledge. That's the guest builds their reputation because people listen to it and go, wow, that guy really or that gal really knows what they're talking about. And they just shared that information. Wow, I love them.
Yes.
And that builds their reputation. The audience learns from it. So they love the show. And it all loops back to what you said. It's all cyclic. We're back to the top of the show again now, where the rising tide lifts all boats.
Yep.
That's how content marketing works in my mind.
I love that. Take imperfect action. If you're listening to this podcast and it resonates with you, we say all the time, stay curious, get involved, and ask for help. If you're curious, that's why you're here. That's why you're listening to this podcast. And we appreciate you. Literally, we couldn't do it without you. But back to take imperfect action. It's the act of doing the task. It's learning the habit of producing media content, audio content, video content, written content, photos, because you don't know what that act will do as you start to learn that skill set. That smartphone skill set of publishing content is going to unlock so many opportunities that Ben has seen, that his wife has seen, that I have seen, that Stover's seen, our team has seen. And we want you to be empowered that same way. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Do not hesitate to reach out to Ben. Stover is going to do a great job of putting all of the links into the show notes. It all happens with reps. The quote that we love to talk about is from Steve Martin, the comedian. He was asked, how did he become such a great comedian? And he said, I'm going to tell you an answer that you're probably not going to like. And the interviewer said, well, what's the answer? And he goes, be so good they can't ignore you. And what does that what does that mean? It means work on the craft. Fail a lot, fail again. Jerry Seinfeld, fail. Chris Rock, all the great comedians, all the great athletes, all the great people in business, they're willing to fail. Einstein, all of these people, they were all willing to fail. And then yet we see the success and we go, oh, well, I want to be successful. I want to put on a podcast. You have to have the courage to fail. Have the courage to say the things that you're scared to say, that you're scared to produce your first podcast. Say that on camera. Say, this is my first podcast. I'm really nervous about it. All you need is one. You just need an audience of one. And that one person can just be you 5 years before you began this journey.
Yeah, man, that's exactly right. One of the core tenets of tenets of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that my family and I study is die 1,000 times in the gym to survive once on the street. And that's exactly that. That is, come to the gym and fail, so that when it counts, you don't fail.
Yeah.
When it counts, you win. And so that's a common theme through so many of the things that we do here. It's in our martial arts, it's in our content that we produce for our show. It's everything. It's everything. Take imperfect action and, fail 1,000 times to nail it once when it counts.
Well, Ben, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I know it's not Father's Day in Australia, but it will be Father's Day for us tomorrow. As a dad, as a leader, I respect the hell out of the work that you and your wife are doing. Stover and I and our entire team, we're huge fans. What you do for the barbecue community, what you do for the media community, sharing your secrets, sharing your tips, sharing your vulnerability. I appreciate you taking us through that difficult time in your life, but it's through that hero's journey. We all like to talk about, we started this idea and then we became successful, but the thing that everyone resonates with is pain, struggle, financial struggle, getting ripped off by a con man, not knowing what you're going to do, not knowing if you're going to be able to pay or if you have to sell your home, and then leaning into your strengths. Back to what you said during this podcast, you said, I want to produce the things that I want to see. I want to build something that I want to be in. Be the change that you want to see. If you do that, if you start to create that content, you can build a community of like-minded people, and that rising tide, we all start to find each other. And then you have friends like I do now with you and your wife. And whenever you guys come to San Diego, your family. So thank you so much for what you do. I truly appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening. Please follow Ben. Please listen to his podcast. Please reach out if you have any questions. And as always, stay curious, get involved, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. We'll see you guys next week.